Okay, it looks like I'm recording. Seems to be. Probably, most likely. So anyway, I'm way behind, sort of, kind of. Been playing with the little Androidy things. I did buy some broken ones. So this is the tablet I've been using. Because it's, good for experimenting. But it's going to be a Vlogger exclusive kind of tablet. Yeah, so it loads Vlogger as the default. So it's pretty cool. I've gotten that far anyway. Um, no other screens. So I got some that don't no touch screen, so they're gonna have to be autoplay style. Anyway, that's I'm learning Androidy stuff, which is good. I mean, not serious. It's just most of it is. I mean, all the crap apps out there. Anyway, and, everything's turned to crap. Humans, it's what they do. Um, so so I have to make a video on the Droidite channel, but I just haven't gotten to it yet. I haven't got to sleep yet. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. Anyway, so I just was watching a Professor Anton video. I said, well, maybe I'll respond to that. Light thing in the there's light in the camera. Well, there's not much I can do about it. So anyway, so Professor Anton first, and then Healthy Attic probably. I'll probably have to do hers in pieces just because it's not a real straight up, concise argument. So anyway, Professor Anton was making a response video to Matt, and they're sort of just talking this, the usual mumbo jumbo that our life means something because we're special, because we think, and because we think that means we're not mechanical like the bugs. And this guy especially thinks that. He thinks we're doing something else, like something not crude and stupid at its core. That it's not just a mechanical process, that these little gestures, these, the squint in my eye, everything about me isn't just a program. But that is all it is. And these guys like to think we're something else. And so he's always maligning, animals as inferior, because they're not doing this vocabulary thing, and they're not doing the, let's have a big, long, complex conversation about how much your poo smells. Just this whole idea that we, animals don't talk it to death. We don't play games like, well, what if it's a matrix and nothing's real and it's blah blah blah. They don't bother with all that crap, and so therefore they're substantially inferior by his perception, and they're not really experiencing life. I would argue that the only thing about us that has any merit, in terms of value, is their sentient capacity, what we viscerally feel, and whether we feel delighted or comfortable, or whether we feel burdened, taxed, pain, suffer. These are the things that are important. And it's nice that we can do this intelligence thing and invent penicillin and stuff. But for all of the good things we do with our technology, we do a lot of insidiously horrible things. Like invent transparent mice. They really had. They made mice with translucent skin. It kills them, slowly and nastily, just so they can watch tumors grow. Yeah, so that's what we do with our imagination, quote unquote, with our creativity, quote unquote. Yeah, which is all just mechanical. It's just a learned process. We can see how we went A, B, C, D. We can see the progression of our technology. We got the little engine thing that could, and then we put it on a car, and then we stuck it on a thing with wings on it and flew it around. And then we figured out what a jet was, and then we figured out we didn't need wings anymore. If it went fast enough, you don't need no frickin' wings. And if you point yourself straight up, you can shoot yourself right out of the atmosphere. Yeah, we figured that out progressively, step by step. Mechanical process. And the processing that we're involved in is pretty much a blender, pretty much a turn everything into shit, quite literally. That's what living things do. They consume perfectly healthy things and turn them into shit. And then say, well, that's a good game. They just keep selling the game. So anyway, this is right where the point where he's saying, well, you're going to have to show me an animal that plays practical jokes on other animals. It's just, he's talking about insects even, like they don't have fun. They don't play soccer or pool. They don't gamble, they don't pickpocket, they don't steal. Bees don't lie to each other. They don't fool the other bees by telling a lie. So they're not spectacular and interesting because they're not creative liars. Because they haven't learned the weapon of deception. But a lot of insects have learned it biologically. They don't know it psychologically, but their biology is doing deception all the time. Little frogs that make themselves colorful to scare off predators when they're not even poisonous. That kind of thing. I'll imitate somebody who's dangerous, so you'll think I'm dangerous. A lot of bees with stripes on them, just because they all want to look like yellow jackets. But anyway, they don't want to. See, this is our language breaks down. It's not that they want to. They are funneled. They are funneled by the game into acquisition of that particular tool. So anyway, I guess, I'll play a second or two of this. I stopped it right here, but this is right where he's just doing his typical, I will malign the other organism's consciousness because somehow it doesn't have any integrity or substance or meaning, because it's not having some inane idiotic conversation about what Kant said. Just insufferable.
But when you get to mammalian play, you have something very clear, because it's resembling something that it's not, and it's called into action by the interacting organisms who do rely upon a codification scheme in order for it to go on. And it is liable to break down. That is, there's sometimes problems when the frame of play breaks down and it precipitates a different set of actions.
Yeah. Well, that's not really breaking down, though, is it? That's part of the social game. That's part of the necessary game of evolution, is this contest, this competition. And so that's all pretty much designed to create the end result in the end. It's going to happen in the end. It starts off with play, but we know that the play is just practice for the reality. There will be a time when you're going to charge the other deer with your antlers. You start off just, and then the game gets real. And the game gets high stakes in the sense of you play the alpha thing, and the winning minority take all the goodies, and the losing majority get eaten by the wolves.
So I think, if some person could come up with some evidence of it happening at insects, I would be interested. I would go, wow, that's fascinating. Let's check out the work. I wouldn't want to say.
So again, let's just understand his critique of insects is that they're too mechanical. It's not that they're sentience. They might not be sensitive. They might not be feeling and be motivated by feelings. He doesn't see that as meaningful or substantive. But somehow that it's mechanical, that they're too mechanical. But again, we're mechanical. My entire personality has been mechanically carved into me by life experience, by my parents, the television I watched, the people I went to school with, the whatever else, the events, the circumstantial events, who got run over in front of me and who, had an artery blow up in their brain in front of me, or what, the little things that happened that impacted me with experience and created this arrangement of behavior. But that's all it is. It's the behavior isn't any less mechanical. Is that the right way to say it? Yeah. It isn't less mechanical. It's just more complicated. It's got more movements to it. So when a praying mantis is, cleaning its head and doing its mechanical behavior, yeah, we can see it's really mechanical because it's simple enough that we can see the redundancy in it, we can see the patterns in it. And it's just that our cleaning, our movements, there's some more moving parts to them. They take, a praying mantis lives one season, one summer. We live many summers. And through that length of time and the structure of the fact that our brain is constantly rewriting itself, yeah, that's what happens. But it's mechanical. There's nothing non-mechanical. And if you look at the real dynamic of it, it's just as crude. It's the same basic functionality. We're still just doing the same torturous routines. These things of necessity to keep you in the game, the necessity of the alpha struggle for success or respect. It's the same game being played. It's just being played with more pieces, more marbles. It's not better marbles, there's just more of them.
Oh, well, this changes everything. But I do think that none of that gets us to the world of sentience outside of life. See, that to me is really the sticking point. And if
yeah, well, Matt's a kook. And obviously you lose all, again, it's this, what does vocabulary mean? If you're going to start talking about the sentience of a rock or a cell or a photon, if you're going to start talking about desire being, what they're experiencing, but this is the problem. All these words have a double meaning. You can think of desire as just being a compulsion to move, and then you could say, okay, well, yeah, photons are compelled to move. They're just not compelled in some way where they experience the compulsion. They just do it. And that we're an expression of that same mechanics, just taken to the next level. And so, but yeah, we're just doing it. We're just photoning. But yeah, you really do have to take account for the fact that we're doing it in this complex environment. Billions of neurons, electricity, lots of moving parts, lots of marbles. Marbles, yeah, marbles. Lots of them.
I say, and this is maybe I'm going to try to wrap it up here, and this is what's to me so important, is that if I say that sentience and conscience and thought emerges with life and it did not predate life, I don't think that...
Yeah, well, this is just biological fact, okay? I mean, we know neurons are what creates sentience and consciousness, so there's not really a reasonable debate. There can only be an unreasonable debate with nonsense if somebody's going to try to bend the meaning of these words to say there's some sort of awareness or agency built into that stuff. Saying we have agency is kind of ludicrous. Right? We have nuance and individuality, but there's still no agent. You're a byproduct. You're not an agent. You're a puppet on the evolutionary strings. destiny is written by circumstance, not something else. Cause and effect, just like the rocks and the photons.
I'm thereby, sort of being an eliminative materialist, even if I do say there's really only materialist world, if I say that the material world is such that it couldn't have not had consciousness emerge.
Yeah, well, that's just another. So what? Yeah, obviously it couldn't have not, because it's a cause and effect, and the causes led to this effect. But clearly we know that it didn't happen on Mars, and it didn't happen on Pluto, and it didn't happen on Saturn, and it didn't happen, I don't think, anywhere else. And so you still have to recognize that it's not a function, and that um, whatever this is, this it's very describable in the sense that we know what made the difference. What makes this planet complicated and those planets not complicated is the fact that there was a replicating compound, DNA, and it provided the opportunity for this accelerated evolution through the use of fodder experiencers, demonstration models that were being used to decide the evolution of a molecule. The molecule is evolving. We're just being puppeted as as symbolic representations of the molecular structure. We're being pwned by the molecule.
It is the very orderliness of it, its orderliness, the way that it's.
Yeah. Well, look. Let's. The order is in the simplicity of it. Okay. Again, it's just a raw competition. It's winner and loser. It's profit and loss. It's gain and pain. It's made out of sticks. It's made out of simple things.
Related to itself somehow. Again, it was not sentient, and yet sentience was an inevitable symptom of it. I don't think I'm caught with either a panpsychism or a kind of eliminative materialism. I think I can give an emergentist position, and we can show how different forms of sentience, starting with something like the rough cell of cell walls and irritability, and that.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry. If you're going to call that sentience, then yeah, I still think you're way out of the truth range of biology and what we know. I mean, I think it's just kind of ludicrous to talk about what we're experiencing. We call it sentient. Having feelings and sensations, the capacity to have a very value-rich qualia feeling, and say that this is something that existed before neurons and brains. I think it's just crap. There's absolutely no evidence of that. No evidence of the possibility of that.
And to the dawning of various kinds of, I guess, awareness gradients. So heat gradients, nutrient gradients that have.
Yeah, and again, that just keeps implying like there's some sort of superiority as you go up this gradient, or some sort of intensity. And exactly the opposite may well be true. We may have compromised and sacrificed a great deal of our sensual character to acquire this mumbo-jumbo ability. All right? All the other mammals have a much richer sense of smell than we do, clearly. And who knows about some of the other perceptual hearing and whatever, where we've compromised some of those senses, likely, in terms of brain space. so we could do this abstract symbolic language construction instead, because we have a different tool set.
For or against that kind of repel in an indexical way. That is, there's more or less. As soon as you get to the either or, you're already at the level of iconicity. There is no either or at the level of the index. The index is just the more or less, right? I think if you stick...
Yeah, no, I just don't think you can do this more or less thing when you don't know what exactly you're talking about. Again, are you just talking about feelings, sensations, or are you talking about behaviors? You know, elaborate behavior, elaborate thoughts, like somehow a thought has intrinsic value. I think that would be kind of a bogus argument to make. We would like to think that there's dignity in elitism, in intelligence, but it really is pragmatically just what it produces. If intelligence is producing idiotic scientists making transparent mice versus, you know, or spending billions and trillions on, you know, atom smashers, yeah, then it's really not demonstrating any superiority or any reason for somebody to say, oh, gee, that is so much better way to be. It's much better to be one of them than one of those. When the truth is bliss might come with ignorance. And even though ignorance is undignified and insulting to character, the end game is less pain.
With that, it just makes it so much clearer, right? The earliest forms of life moved in indexical gradients of more or less that formed the ground level of repulsion and attraction. But then from there, those slowly, millions and millions of years became more and more complex.
Yeah, well, again, but just understand that more and more complex and just more and more snow. The more snow you have, yes, the more snowflakes there are, the harder it would be to account for all of them and where they are and how much they weigh and what each one is doing. So there's more information built into it, but there's not necessarily more value built into it. And that's really the point. There may not be any value associated with our high-mindedness. If our high-mindedness can't even recognize the thing that matters the most, which is the qualitative, sensual experience.
All right. Hopefully that is good for Matt, and it's nice seeing a video from you, and hope everyone as well. Take care.
Yeah, you can hope, but we know that's not the way it works. So again, it's a failure of this whole method of communication, the whole way the culture has constructed our existence, to exist in this with these notions of hope, these notions of substance and dignity, and they're just notions. They're not something that can be demonstrated by evidence and logic. They're just self-aggrandizing bullshit. They're rationalizations, and that's all they are. And sorry, but that's all you are. You're a professor of rationalizations, a purveyor of rationalizations. You're selling them. You're selling them cheap, but you're still selling them. So anyway, I guess I'll call this a video. I guess I'll tack on the other. I'll do the healthy attic as a separate video, right? Why smash the two together? So, I don't know how long the battery's going to last anyway. So I'm going to do her video in pieces anyway, so yeah, it'll be different. So no point. All right, till next time. Hit the button now. awkwardly